Folks, we have a breaking infrastructure crisis unfolding in Pittsburgh right now that perfectly illustrates just how devastating Winter Storm Fern continues to be, even after the active weather has moved away. Mayor Corey O'Connor has just declared a state of emergency in Pittsburgh, and the reason is absolutely shocking. 37 out of 95 city snowplows have completely broken down and are sitting in repair garages, unable to clear the streets. This is not just a weather story anymore, people. This is a complete infrastructure failure happening in real time. We're talking about a major American city that is essentially paralyzed because the equipment designed to handle winter weather has failed catastrophically. Pittsburgh residents are trapped in their neighborhoods, emergency vehicles can't get through, and the remaining 58 functioning plows simply cannot keep up with the massive cleanup job ahead of them. Let me put this in perspective for you. Pittsburgh is not some small town that rarely sees snow. This is a city that gets winter weather every single year. They have experience with this, they have protocols in place, they have equipment specifically designed for exactly these conditions. And yet, Winter Storm Fern has pushed their capabilities so far beyond normal limits that nearly 40% of their entire snow removal fleet is now out of commission. Mayor O'Connor held an emergency press conference this morning, and I have to tell you, the desperation in his voice was unmistakable. He said, and I quote, "This gives us the power to bring in additional help and support. It allows us to bring in private contractors. They're not only going to help remove snow and plow streets, but also help haul snow out of our neighborhoods. When a mayor has to declare a state of emergency just to get snow removed from city streets, you know the situation has reached crisis levels. The snow accumulation in Pittsburgh exceeded expectations, but what's really causing the infrastructure breakdown is the combination of factors that Winter Storm Fern brought to the table. We are not just dealing with snow, we are dealing with ice underneath that snow. We're dealing with temperatures that are making metal brittle and hydraulic systems sluggish. And we're dealing with snow so heavy and wet in some areas that it is putting tremendous stress on the mechanical systems of these plows. Think about what's happening to these machines. Snow plows are built tough, but they're not indestructible. When you're pushing through snow that's been compacted by traffic mixed with ice and sitting at temperatures well below freezing, you're putting enormous strain on engines, transmissions, hydraulic systems, and plowing mechanisms. Add to that the fact that these crews have been working around the clock since the storm began, and you have a recipe for mechanical failures on a massive scale. The ripple effects of this equipment failure are absolutely staggering. Emergency medical services are struggling to reach patients because ambulances can't navigate unplowed streets. Fire trucks are having difficulty responding to calls. Utility crews trying to restore power to customers are finding it nearly impossible to reach damaged equipment because the roads are impassable. This is exactly the kind of cascading failure that we warned about when Winter Storm Fern was approaching. But Pittsburgh is not alone in this crisis. Across the winter storm impact zone, cities are discovering that their snow removal capabilities are being overwhelmed by the sheer scale and intensity of what Winter Storm Fern delivered. We're seeing similar equipment failures and operational challenges from Texas all the way up through New England. The difference is that Pittsburgh's mayor was honest enough to publicly declare an emergency and ask for help. What makes Pittsburgh's situation particularly critical is the geography of the city. This isn't a flat prairie town where you can easily bypass blocked roads. Pittsburgh is built on hills with steep grades, narrow streets, and limited alternate routes. When the main arterial roads become impassable, entire neighborhoods can be cut off completely. We're talking about areas where people literally cannot get out of their driveways, let alone navigate to main roads. The economic impact of this infrastructure failure is going to be enormous. Businesses can't operate if employees can't get to work. Delivery trucks can't make their routes. The Port of Pittsburgh, which handles millions of tons of cargo every year, is seeing operations severely disrupted because trucks can't navigate the approach roads. This is exactly the kind of secondary impact that makes winter storms so much more destructive than just the immediate weather effects. Mayor O'Connor's state of emergency declaration allows the city to bypass normal procurement procedures and bring in private contractors immediately. But here's the problem. Every city within 500 miles is dealing with the same situation. The private contractors that might normally be available to help Pittsburgh are already committed to cleanup efforts in other cities. There simply is not enough specialized snow removal equipment available to handle the demand across the entire affected region. The financial implications are staggering. Emergency declarations allow cities to access state and federal disaster funding, but the immediate costs are enormous. Private snow removal contractors charge premium rates during emergency situations. And when you're talking about clearing snow from hundreds of miles of city streets using contracted equipment, you're looking at millions of dollars in additional expenses that weren't budgeted for. What is particularly frustrating is that this is exactly the kind of situation that emergency management experts have been warning about for years. Climate change is making extreme weather events more frequent and more intense, but our infrastructure hasn't been upgraded to handle these new realities. Pittsburgh's snowplow fleet was sized and maintained based on historical weather patterns, not the kind of extreme conditions that Winter Storm Fern delivered. The human cost of this infrastructure failure is what really concerns me. We have elderly residents who depend on medical services, people with chronic health conditions who need regular dialysis or other treatments, and families with young children who may run out of essential supplies. When emergency services can't reach people because the roads are impassable, what starts as a snow removal problem quickly becomes a public health crisis. Pittsburgh's emergency management director has activated warming centers throughout the city. But here's the catch. Many people can't actually reach those warming centers because the roads in their neighborhoods are blocked. City buses aren't running on many routes because the streets haven't been cleared. The Port Authority of Allegheny County has suspended or limited service on numerous routes, leaving people stranded in areas that still don't have power restored from the storm. The power restoration efforts are being severely hampered by the road conditions. Utility crews from outside the region have been brought in to help restore electricity to the thousands of customers who are still without power. But these crews are unfamiliar with Pittsburgh's street layout and are finding it nearly impossible to navigate to damaged equipment. When a tree falls on a power line, crews need to be able to get trucks with specialized equipment to that exact location. If the roads are impassable, the repairs simply can't be made. Food distribution is becoming another critical concern. Major grocery store chains are reporting that delivery trucks cannot reach many locations because the approach roads haven't been cleared. Even stores that have food in stock are seeing severely reduced customer traffic because people can't safely drive to reach them. The city is having to coordinate emergency food deliveries using vehicles that can navigate unplowed roads. The medical implications are equally serious. Hospitals are reporting increased numbers of patients with injuries from slips and falls, heart attacks from overexertion during snow removal, and carbon monoxide poisoning from improper heating. At the same time, many people who need routine medical care are unable to reach their appointments because of impassable roads. Prescription medications are running low for people who can't get to pharmacies. What's really eye-opening about Pittsburgh's situation is how it demonstrates the interconnected nature of urban infrastructure. Snow removal seems like a simple municipal service, but when it fails, it triggers failures across multiple systems. Transportation fails, which affects commerce, which affects food distribution, which affects public health. Power restoration is delayed, which affects heating, which creates more demand for emergency shelters, which strains social services. The weather forecast for Pittsburgh shows continued cold temperatures that will keep much of this snow and ice from melting naturally. We're looking at several more days of below freezing temperatures, which means the city is entirely dependent on mechanical snow removal to restore normal operations. With 37% of their plow fleet out of commission, this crisis could extend for much longer than anyone anticipated. Other cities are watching Pittsburgh's situation very carefully because they're dealing with similar challenges. Boston has activated its snow emergency procedures and is bringing in additional equipment from neighboring communities. New York City is conducting emergency maintenance on its plow fleet to prevent similar breakdowns. Philadelphia has already contracted with private snow removal companies as a preventive measure. The National Guard has been activated in multiple states affected by Winter Storm Fern, and Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro is considering whether to deploy Guard units to assist with Pittsburgh's snow removal crisis. Military vehicles are often better suited to navigate extreme conditions than civilian equipment, and Guard units have experience with emergency logistics operations. This situation perfectly illustrates why adequate investment in infrastructure maintenance is so critical. Many of Pittsburgh's snowplows are older vehicles that were already operating near the end of their design service life. The extreme demands of Winter Storm Fern pushed these machines beyond their limits, causing failures that might have been prevented with more robust equipment replacement programs. The city is now scrambling to rent or purchase additional snow removal equipment, but availability is extremely limited. Equipment rental companies report that their entire fleets are already deployed across the storm-affected region. Even if additional equipment could be located, getting it transported to Pittsburgh is complicated by the same road conditions that are hampering local operations. Pittsburgh. This crisis is a wake-up call for cities across America about the vulnerability of essential municipal services to extreme weather events. As these events become more frequent and more severe, the infrastructure that we depend on for basic services needs to be more resilient and better maintained. The cost of prevention is always less than the cost of emergency response, but too often we don't make those investments until after a crisis forces our hand. The residents of Pittsburgh are showing remarkable resilience in the face of this crisis. Neighbors are helping neighbors, community groups are organizing supply distribution networks, and local businesses that can operate are extending their hours to serve customers who might not be able to return for several days. This is exactly the kind of community spirit that helps cities get through disasters. But it shouldn't be necessary for basic municipal services like snow removal. We'll continue monitoring Pittsburgh's situation closely as the city works to restore normal operations. This crisis serves as a reminder that Winter Storm Fern's impacts extend far beyond the immediate weather event. The secondary and tertiary effects of extreme weather can persist for weeks or even months after the storm has passed, and they often reveal vulnerabilities in our infrastructure that we didn't know existed until they failed catastrophically. For anyone in Pittsburgh or other areas still dealing with unplowed roads, please continue to avoid unnecessary travel. Emergency services are working as quickly as they can, but they're operating under extremely difficult conditions. Check on your neighbors, especially elderly residents who might need assistance, and remember that what seems like a simple problem, clearing snow from roads, can become a complex crisis when the systems we depend on are pushed beyond their limits.